Welcome back to my world, guys. We're going into my story of spiritual enlightenment from a modern perspective and how it all came together. So we'll go over how I basically smoked weed and played video games, and that's what led to my enlightenment and my fascination with neuroscience, why these chemicals work, and so on. So truly my story begins with my lifelong depression, my extreme disdain for my existentiality. And that sort of became prevalent when I was 5 years old. This is when my dad left, and I didn't have a dad around, and that's a real thing. Not having a dad around you, you miss out on a whole set of traits that are necessary to fully be a human being. And my mother is my hero, and everything's cool with my father now, but for at least nearly 20 years of my life, this was the cornerstone of my suffering. I really didn't fit in. I was the shy kid, bullied in school, didn't really have any friends, grew up in special needs schools, had an early diagnosis with autism and dyslexia, and really that wound into this negative psychology. So I guess my first point with my spiritual awakening came with the usage of cannabis around 18 years old. I'm 28 right now, just to give you context. So 10 years ago, I started using cannabis, and it made me better at video games. And this was when I was into finally trying to start to figure out why I was broken and fix myself, as opposed to giving up on life and wanting to die for the majority of it. So this fascination with why it made me better at things was the initial point of my spiritual enlightenment. It gave me a new glean, a new look at my suffering. It was a habitual narrative in my mind. The muscle memory that helped me in the video games helped me understand the nature of our psychology and how it's really just a habit. It's a guess as to why we are the way that we are. So through my mastery of Rocket League, which was my favorite game at the time, I really learned about 3D physics and the nature of the brain, the assembly of skills, and the extrinsic nature of our identity from the results of our actions. In fact, it's mistakes that add up into our successful circuitry, right? That mistake is the circuitry of winning. So it's actually counterintuitive to judge ourselves or damn ourselves based on one mistake. And this is where I started to recognize things like forgiveness, compassion, patience, humility, these virtues that these yogi guys are talking about. Really, that's the ticket. That's what makes the most sense. It's the way to do this thing, because everything is inevitable. The passage of time and emotions are inevitable. Virtues smoothen the flow of that into us. So I became obsessed with this. I realized that my spirituality could make me better at the things that I loved. It wasn't a transcendence or a getting rid of the human body. It was an enhancement and a flourishment of this. So I became obsessed with why marijuana and psilocybin helped me become better at things, why we would realize things under this, and I began talking about it with other people. It started to resonate with them, and they didn't have to do the substances to get what I was talking about. So clearly I was realizing something real, this truth, this ever-pervasive, emanating truth of our reality, the way that it works for everyone, the objective nature of our existence. And this was what our yogi ancestors, our shamans, were trying to talk about, but using parabolic languages and symbology to represent concepts, and not the linear sort of left brain way that we talk about it in our modern day. So it's been about 7 to 8 years of truly being into this, and I started to do yoga, breath work, walking for long distances, just picking up any skill, and developing my morals and ethics, my speech, and just truly integrating everything I learned under the effects of these substances. And now I'm trying to communicate this education to others and reawaken this knowledge, and in a way that's immediately practical, immediately applicable to our lives. I see the body as a science experiment. We can do things to it to exhibit a subjective alteration in our consciousness. And that's breathwork to me. That's cold showers. That's meditation. I'm sciencing myself, and I'm also connecting with that spirituality, right? We can live as scientifically as we can poetically. And that's just sort of how I believe about the world. And now I see that my mental illness and my depression, it was a state of wiring and chemistry inside of me that I identified with. And meditation and plant medicine came came in and it worked as sort of an unhooking from this cyclical process, and I had to defeat it. I had to talk myself out of it. I had to come up with logical statements that were more powerful than what I found in my head was my proof as to why I was broken and could never be fixed.